Hello, everybody. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wednesday weekly live stream for independent singers and musicians, where we talk about music and marketing and voice and all of the things that independent artists need to thrive and survive. Welcome on the call today. How's your week going so far? Where are you tuning in from? What part of the world are you tuning in from today? Good to see everybody here. Today is 5 secrets to a strong and healthy voice. And I'm also going to talk about some of the biggest causes of vocal issues and solutions. So a quick announcement before we get going. For those of you that are really serious about building a strong and healthy voice, I invite you to an incredible 8-week experience, the Vocal Freedom Circle, where you learn my co-vocal method and over 70 exercises within an actual method that will build the strength, the resilience, the tone, the legato line, the overtone series, all of these incredible things that singers really need on a biomechanical level. And this method is based in 40 years of vocal science. I see some of my VFCers here on the call with me today. Tampa Bay, Florida in the house. So what would it feel like to really reach your vocal potential and experience an actual shift in your voice? So head on over to carriecole.com/vocal-freedom-circle, and you can sign up. Use the coupon VFC special, which I always talk about on these calls. VFC special is the coupon for the Vocal Freedom Circle. And I'll put the Vocal Freedom Circle in the chat on YouTube. So let's dive into the topic today, and then put your questions together so that at the end of the call, I can answer your important questions for you. Okay. So number one, I'm just going to roll through the 5 techniques. As always, these tips are on the blog and written out in great detail. So if you find yourself wanting to take notes, but you don't have the opportunity to, go head over to the blog where every single week the topic that I'm talking about is written out in detail there for you. Okay. So the 5 techniques I'm going to talk about today, there are many, but the 5 techniques I'm going to talk about today are: 1, building vocal strength; 2, decreasing vocal strain; 3, how alignment affects power and reduces strain and increases sound; how to strip away the compensatory muscles that cause strain; and how to open the throat. Whoops, I'm on the wrong. Hang on a second. Let me get on the right one here. Those are similar. Okay, so I'm talking about vocal technique. Sorry, start again. Talking about vocal technique, how to develop a strong and healthy developed singing voice. Vocal support, a voice with power that is free from strain. Number 3 is core vocal strength. Number 4 is lifestyle habits and choices that support vocal health. And 5 is a clean and healthy environment and how that affects the voice. So as I mentioned, I can't get to all of them today, but I'll get as far as I can, then I'll open it up for questions. So to build a strong and healthy voice, you need a solid vocal technique that is based in vocal health and vocal science, like my co-vocal method. Because strain or improper technique is one of the biggest causes of vocal issues and can erode vocal health over time, where singers really run into problems. And the best way to get started developing a strong and healthy voice is with the right technique and establishing a strong daily practice. Who here has a strong daily practice? I want to see who in the house has a strong daily practice. This is really important. Give me a thumbs up or give me a heart in the comments. Let me know if you're working on your technique. I want to know who's in the house today. So who is working on technique? Who needs to work on technique? Say need to, or I have a practice. I have a vocal practice. And the right technique is really critical, because the majority of vocal techniques out there are more about manipulating sound and moving sound around on the surface of the voice than about correctly addressing healthy singing techniques. I call it window dressing. So it's using sound or positions to manipulate the sound of the voice to get the desired result. But this is not how you develop a strong and healthy singing voice. These kinds of techniques will have you tuck the stomach in to support the voice or send the sound to the mask to get out of the throat. But these techniques are only temporary because they only address the surface of the sound and they don't improve the mechanics. So over time, this leads to vocal problems, but also you'll never step into the full potential of your voice because you're not doing the mechanical work necessary to really build that sound. So, and the proper mechanics and the proper way that the voice needs to function is the answer. And once you develop it, you don't have to go back and do it. You are moving towards this point on the trajectory where you will have arrived. Okay. So start with my singers, get warm up, or dive into the vocal freedom circle. So this is really, the vocal technique is the core foundation of everything that you want in your voice, right? Daily practice. Yes, Dan Binderman, good to see you here. It really is where the beauty happens and where the magic happens in your voice. And singers who have never done this kind of a biomechanical technique, you have so much waiting for you that you don't realize, because again, you're picking up tips here and there on YouTube or wherever, and vocal coaches who are not technique teachers are throwing ideas at you to throw the sound in the mask or tuck your stomach in, but this is not helping. This is only causing more problems, and again, just addressing the surface of the voice. So vocal technique is number one for building a strong and healthy voice. If you singers who don't have a strong vocal technique and a proper vocal technique underneath them will never step into their full potential. Number two, vocal support. So a voice with power that is free from strain, right? So lack of support in the singing voice, or incorrect support, like tucking the stomach in, with all you have to do is tighten the stomach and you feel the tension in the throat, right? So lack of the correct support, which is really coming more from the trunk of the body. Most singers haven't established that kind of support because it takes a lot of work and it's not necessarily intuitive. It's something that you have to be not only directed in, but you need to practice the proper movements to really improve the quality of the voice and take the strain off the voice and develop that support from the body, the trunk of the body. So the first step, of course, is always to keep your chest lifted during inhalation or singing or exhalation, right? So the minute that you go, ah, ah, when the chest drops upon inhalation, you have already lost your air. So when the number one thing is just when the chest stays up, ah, 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 right? When the chest stays high, we don't have that forward head and we're singing from the throat. We have the support. We're putting the support here more where the chest wall and the pectorals are, because the pectoral muscles are the only muscles, or the first muscles, really the only muscles though, that anchor the laryngeal muscles. These are the laryngeal muscles in here, right? And most people are singing from here up. So that's number one in developing support. And people don't really talk about that. They talk about, you know, breathing into the abdomen. They talk about the diaphragm and all of that. And that's all good and fine and wonderful and important. However, if the chest is dropped, the diaphragm won't descend. We won't get the air deeper in the lung. So alignment is really key. It's more important than you think. And this is important when you are vocalizing. So I separate vocalizing and singing. In the mechanical exercises and in the mechanics of the voice, we need to overdo the motions, right? Then when we're singing, you know, you may be doing this, you may be doing that, you may be moving around, you're singing, that kind of thing. Don't judge singers by, or don't assess singers by how they're singing. Most contemporary singers are not trained correctly. Opera singers are trained correctly. So in an opera singer, it's a better person to watch, but they're not all opera singers sing correctly either. It really depends on that person's training. But just in general, if you're looking at a contemporary singer, they may be like this or that kind of thing. They may be hunched over, right? But some of it is performance, right? So if I'm moving and I'm performing, when I'm performing, I'm not going to be just like this, right? Or I'm not going to be I have to move. I have to move with the band, that kind of thing. But when we practice the correct alignment in our technique, what happens over time is that the body then responds and makes the connection to the pectorals, right? So in our practice is where we need to practice this kind of form. And we really need those pectorals to be present so we can anchor the laryngeals. Why is that important? Because the laryngeal muscles get pushed up, right? As you sing, they get pushed up. And a high larynx the voice sounds unsupported. The voice cracks or breaks. The voice can't reach high notes. There's all kinds of things that happen in the strength of the voice that is not set up correctly when the support is not set up correctly. So in order to have a voice that has power, that is free from strain, it's really, really important, okay? And once you really get used to singing more properly, you're using the trunk of the body from the collarbones to the pubic bone. You're using the trunk to support the sound, not the throat muscles, okay? Number 3 is core vocal strength. So to build a strong and healthy voice, you need to establish strength in the core of your vocal instrument that can stand up to the demands of singing for a living. Without building core vocal strength in the foundation of the voice, singers will fall back into their throats and run the risk of eventually ruining their voices. So this is a huge part of singers losing their voices as they age, or cumulatively losing their voices as time goes by, performance upon performance upon performance, that is completely avoidable when the singer has done the kind of technical work to establish the core vocal strength. So again, as I talk about the majority of techniques out there, window dress rather than building actual strength. They're just quick tricks or quick fixes, but they don't address the core function or foundation of the voice, which I do in my co-vocal method because it is a biomechanical method based in vocal science. So core vocal strength is established first by stripping away the compensatory muscles or accessory muscles that mask strength but keep from developing strength in the core of the voice. So for example, the jaw will jump in or the back of the neck will jump in. Ah, ah, instead of ah, right? If I go like initially, I can grab those back of the neck muscles and the voice feels a little bit more solid. But really what it's doing is muting the voice and it's pulling the palate down, so it's making it harder to get high notes, right? So when I keep my chin down and my chest is up, I have much more sound, okay? But the singer initially will go this way. We will naturally kind of grab the back of the neck because those are the closest muscles to use, but they're not effective long term and they will cause problems and they will they're masking the strength of the voice. When I sit back and my alignment is more correct and I've done the work to strengthen those core muscles, they're there for me and the voice can function not only healthier, but you have more resonance and you have more power and you have more sound with less effort. I have a vocal challenge coming up in July. We haven't announced it yet. We will soon. You'll spend 4 one-hour sessions with me in a workshop style, and I'm going to walk you through 4 hours together consecutively. It's July 15th through the 18th, so mark your calendar. At 3, I think it's 3:15 or 3 p.m. Eastern, and it will be recorded for those that want to watch back. But this is going to be an opportunity to come and spend 4 hours with me for free and walk through what it feels like when we get everything aligned and focused, and you will feel a release in your voice. And this is to give you an example of some of what we do in the Vocal Freedom Circle. And this is to open up the second launch of our evergreen of Vocal Freedom Circle, that you can also just go dive in and do the Vocal Freedom Circle now, or you can start with my Singers Gift warm-ups. Number 4, and I'm going to open up for questions in just a few minutes, so get your questions ready. Number 4 is really the lifestyle habits and choices that support vocal health. So to build a strong and healthy voice, you need to establish the right lifestyle habits and practices that support your vocal health so you can sing unencumbered by issues that come from lifestyle. And then number 5 is environment. So lifestyle and environment, habits and choices, and then environment around you really does affect the voice. So it plays a large role in keeping the singer's voice healthy and performing at their peak. Keep in mind, for myself as one of the top vocal coaches in New York City, training singers for 38 years and specializing in pop singing, but also in vocal health, but based in operatic technique. I've had thousands and thousands of singers come here into my studio to help them improve the quality of their voice. And I need to, those singers that were, performing on The Voice or performing on American Idol, who I've worked with, or Songland, or even singing on that Grammy stage. Donald Fagen won a Grammy after working with me for Best Pop Male Vocal, his first vocal Grammy. I have to keep singers in very good shape. And so I have to look for natural, I've always looked for natural methods. The pharmaceutical medication doesn't work very well for singers, and it dries singers' voices out. And it also doesn't really address the finer tunings that singers really need. So lifestyle habits and natural remedies and environmental factors have been a big part of my methodology and why I include them in the cold vocal method, and why I call it a master holistic vocal method, because we need to look at those pieces, because sometimes when a singer is losing their voice, it's coming from something either in the lifestyle choice or in the environment. So I'll plow through a few of them, and then you can head over on the blog to read more about this subject. So the top 3 lifestyle culprits, does anybody know what they are? And I'm not talking about drugs and alcohol, okay? So obviously those are obvious, but what are the 3 lifestyle culprits that affect the voice? Go ahead and put those in the comments. Anyone guess what those top 3 are? The top 3 things that steal from the singer's voice, that cause vocal issues or not being able to sing well. Caffeine, good choice. Hydration, rest, good choice. Yep, you guys are on it. I wouldn't say caffeine necessarily, but I would say dehydration. Stress is good. I would say dehydration. So the top 3 culprits are: 1, dehydration is one of the top number 1 causes of vocal hoarseness or loss of voice, loss of range, or deeper vocal problems. Okay. One of my ENTs here in New York said to me that if his clients drank the adequate amount of water and were adequately hydrated, he would lose 75% of his clientele. Is that not unbelievable? 75% of his clientele he would lose. So that's how much dehydration affects your voice. And it gets more sophisticated. I have an ultimate hydration plan you can find on my Instagram, because it's more than drinking water. And there's another element to it. I'm going to do a whole opt-in piece on that ultimate hydration plan, or do a product for you guys, because it's very deeply involved. The other problem is that the water that we're drinking is not structured. So unless you're drinking structured water, which is more than spring water, you're not getting water into the cells of the voice. Or into the cells. You're not hydrating, not of the voice. You're not getting water into the cells of the body. So a quick trick, and Barbara O'Neill, holistic functional medicine doctor, talks about this. You can put a little pinch of Celtic salt or Himalayan salt. Celtic is preferred, but Himalayan's okay, on your tongue before you drink the water. And then you are able to absorb the water into the cell and stay more hydrated. So I would say number 1 is dehydration, is the top number 1 thing that causes vocal problems. Number 2 is lack of sleep. So lack of sleep is extremely hard to hide in the voice, because and sleep is when we replenish. So if we're not replenishing, then the body is operating on 0 batteries, because we are trying to fix things while we are functioning in the day instead of replenishing at night. So dehydration is one of the top causes of vocal hoarseness. Lack of sleep is number two. And then laryngeal reflux, I would say, is the third thing. And that can be caused by stress. Somebody said stress earlier, but stress is a big issue. But laryngeal reflux is when you don't know that you have reflux. It's not like GERD, and singers um, struggle with it more because the sphincter to the stomach is more open because the diaphragm is more free. So a lot of singers have laryngeal reflux, and you know you have it because you're always drinking water, but you're constantly dry. That's a sign. Your voice is cracking or breaking. You have a lot of mucus in the morning. So those are the top three things that really steal from the voice. And the laryngeal reflux, burns the little tiny hairs that line the vocal folds and keeps the water on the folds. It takes about 3 days for those little hairs to grow back, which is why I developed the 3-day rule, which you'll find on my blog of what to stay away from 3 days before performance to have a more productive and better performance. And part of that, the number one thing about reflux is not eating late at night. Does anybody eat like a little snack before you go to bed? That's the number one reason for causing reflux, because then your stomach acids, your body's producing those stomach acids to digest the food, and you're laying flat, and then the stomach acids wash up on the cords and burn the cords because it's acid, right? And the acids go all the way into the nasal cavity too. So you can wake up in the morning sniffing and feeling like, oh, I just always have this kind of sniffle or allergy. That can often be the sign of laryngeal reflux. And the only reason to worry about it is because it really affects the voice and you can't hit your high notes and all of those things. There's more about that and the clean and healthy environment over on the blog. So go ahead and head on over to the blog to read more about this week's topic. Let me go to some questions. I see some questions over here on Instagram. After you do warm-ups, how long should you wait to do your regular singing? Yes, it depends, Troy. So if you are warming up if you're doing, in my method, we do the Singer's Gift vocal warm-ups. I don't know if you're using my method or not. And then we also have voice building. So voice building, we would wait a couple of hours before singing. But it depends on how long your warm-up is. If you're doing the Singer's Gift warm-up, you can go right into singing. But you might want to wait 20 minutes or half an hour, but you don't have to, right? So, but again, I don't know what warm-ups you're doing. So if it's an intensive warm-up set, then you should wait. If it's a more restorative opening warm-up set like the Singer's Gift, you can go right into it. What other questions do we have over here? Are you saying that if we get support alignment, correct in practice, we don't need so rigid in a live situation? Yes, that's correct, John. That's correct. Because once the connection to the pectorals is made, and the changes need to be made in your practice, not as much when you're singing. You can think about it a little bit in your singing. I always use this performance mic, where you can like pull, you pull the mic to you. So no matter if you're down or up or around or however you're moving, but you're connected to those pectorals, right? So you're not like dropping the chest. That's the one thing when you're singing that I would focus on. Just don't drop the chest, keep it up. Okay, I'm rehabbing my voice after septum correction and tonsil removal. I'm working on the shifts from and into the mids, but my biggest issue is singing while sitting and playing my ukulele. What can I do to help? Yes, I was just working on that with a singer, and I play guitar. I've played guitar my whole life and piano, so it's easy to do this. But when we're playing guitar, we just need to remember to do this. We just need to remember to bring that guitar or ukulele to us, right, and not reach the chin forward and drop the chest. So it really is a subtle but easy correction. And again, if you practice it, it's easier to practice it in technique. And that's why a technical practice of a minimum of 20 minutes a day, where you practice the alignment, what will happen, you won't even have to think about it when you're performing because your body will naturally go into those motions because it's familiar with it. So that's the best way. And you can start with my Singer's Gift warm-ups that teaches all of those pieces. Let's see, what other questions do we have? Any questions? We have another 5 minutes, so I'm happy to answer questions. Yeah, oh yeah. Darrow is saying he has these, he is saying he has these symptoms. Yeah, it's very common. Reflux is very common, actually, and it has a lot to do with the microbiome, right? And I mean, first, it's eating late at night and eating some of the wrong foods. So go and get my 3-day rule over on my blog. You could just Google Carrie Cole 3-day rule and it'll pull it right up. But you really want to avoid carbonated. So a lot of people that have reflux are drinking carbonated water or, bubbly stuff. That's a no-no for singers because you're burping, right? So you're burping the stomach acids up, even though you don't realize it or necessarily taste it. So no carbonated, and you need to stay away from certain foods that are causing indigestion, right? And some people have Helicobacter pylori, H. pylori, which is a bacteria in the stomach. It's not as common. It's usually those other things. But if it's a problem that you're not able to solve by those, eliminating certain foods that are on that 3-day rule list, and eating late at night, if you're not able to solve it, you might want to get a test for that and see, because it's a pretty easy course of action if that's the case. Tips for, okay, let's see. I went to my ENT last week after having a pain in my neck. They didn't find anything after doing the laryngoscopy, but it said it could be a swollen gland. Could it be one of those factors that you mentioned? Usually, Linda, a pain in the neck, and if you were to point, where would you point? Would you point to the right of the throat, as I am doing right now, or would you point to the left of the throat? Very often singers are pointing here or here, and then sometimes they're pointing here in the center. If you're pointing here, but you said neck, so I think it's on the side. But if you're pointing here and here, it usually has to do with the accessory muscles. So somehow the accessory muscles got strained, and the ENTs don't focus on that. They don't know they don't know about that, about muscles and singing, and that's much more detailed. They're looking at the vocal cords, right? So Linda, you could set up a vocal analysis, a 30-minute vocal analysis with me. There's a coupon, Summer Power, all caps, or you can write into info@Carrie Cole to get the coupon. It'll save you a good chunk of change. But set up a vocal analysis and I get to the bottom of it. But usually, if it's here or there, it has more to do with the scalenes and some kind of either strain or tension that happened or tightness that happened inside, and it's to the right. Yeah, it's usually like right in here. Yeah, and that could also be as it relates to the vocal muscles, to the aortic cartilage, because it's a giant web. So I do a lot of vocal massage and understand how those muscles function, so we can usually figure it out and find the right thing that you need to do. And you probably need to start with vocal stretches and vocal massages. I don't know if you're doing my Singer's Gift, but you could start with that and then the vocal rescue kit. But it usually has to do with that. Okay, let's see. Tips for singing while sitting versus standing. I think you were asking about I think that was you asking about the ukulele, right? It's the same kind of thing we just talked about. Yeah, I mean, it all has to do with having the chest higher than normal to protect the voice and to give the support of not only the pectoral muscles, but when the chest is lifted, the diaphragm has a chance to go down and you actually have a chance to breathe into the lower triangle of the lungs and get more support for your singing. So you're not singing from your throat, right? So you get a better balance between air and muscle. Yeah. You're welcome. Any other questions, guys, before I head out? So remember, everything that I talk about on these live streams is the topic of the week on the blog. So you can head over there, and there's more details than I say in here outlined for you. And then you can find the 3-day rule over there. You can find the ultimate hydration plan on Instagram, because it's more than drinking water. There's other aspects to staying hydrated that are really important. And look into drinking structured water. How long should we wait to sing after eating? Yeah, it's everyone's a little bit different, but don't have a big meal right before you sing, right? I know Luciano Pavarotti would talk about having pasta the night before for the carbs. Everybody's different, but for some people, that's not good. So for me, it's really important not to eat a big, for all my singers. I mean, when I've been in recording sessions, I remember one time a guy went out and had a Big Mac or something. I didn't know what he was going out to get a bite. And he came in and the session was ruined. He literally had to reschedule the session. He couldn't sing because his body was busy digesting and there was all this gunk in his throat. So I like to finish eating a good hour and a half, 2 hours, probably 2 hours before. Yeah, and and I'll bring melon, or some kind of fruit, strawberries or melon or something like that, to munch on if I need something, in my stomach or to eat. And melon is very hydrating for the voice. Mine is on the left, and in my case, it's due to an old injury in my rhomboid. Yes, exactly. They're very connected, right? So you want to work with a body worker who understands the connections in the muscles of the neck and how they are connected to all the other muscles, right? Thank you for this session. To improve reflux and microbiome, I think is what you mean. How would you recommend eating yogurt, cheese for singers? How do you prevent infections? That's a lot of, wow, there's a lot of questions there. But yes, good to see you, Amy. So to improve microbiome, the latest is really coming from a documentary on Netflix. It's a really good documentary about microbiome that's on Netflix right now. I'd recommend watching it. And their studies showed that we're not getting a diverse enough menu of plants and fruits and vegetables in our diet. So what happens is we have a smaller amount of microbiome. So one of the ways that they started improving the microbiome, and they saw it turn around in literally 2 weeks, was to add more fruits and vegetable green powders into a smoothie that this guy had every day, and his microbiome started to flourish. So that's one thing. The other problem that we have with microbiome today is glyphosate, especially, I mean, not just in America, it's everywhere, but America really has a problem with it. And glyphosate is Roundup. It's the chemical pesticide that is sprayed on fruits and vegetables, and all the other kinds of things. Like even in the grocery store, there'll be organic fruits and vegetables, and they'll be spraying. So they don't spray glyphosate, but they're spraying something on the fruits and vegetables, which is a chemical, which should be illegal. You shouldn't be able to do that. You're buying organic food. So there's so many disturbances, and glyphosate causes a huge problem with the microbiome, which is why many people are toxic and have that middle belly weight. So yes, yogurt is good. Some kinds of cheeses are good. Kombucha is good. It has a low level of carbonation, but if you have reflux, I wouldn't drink kombucha. Sauerkraut, kimchi, there's all kinds of things like that. But also add some green powders to your smoothie. I have a smoothie every day with green powders and chlorophyll and spirulina and what's the other one? It's really, really good. I'm forgetting it right now. I have a whole list. I could do a whole live on just health if you guys are interested, and what I eat and how I manage my diet. How to protect the voice, I think we're going over. You're welcome. I'll answer one more question. How to protect the voice during allergy season. So Ria, that's a good question, and that could be a whole thing in of itself. Allergies are not normal for you to have. So if you're having allergies, there's something off in the microbiome as we're talking today. When the microbiome is healthy, allergies subside. But I do have inside of my vocal resource library, which is with the coupon on Instagram, you save $10, so it's $9.95. So it's a small ebook that includes a full outline of allergies and how to get rid of allergies, really, because there's, depending on what is causing your allergies, uh, you can get those symptoms to subside so much that you're not experiencing them anymore. And at the same time, you can work on improving your microbiome. A lot of it has to do with the environment, which is the fifth secret that's on the blog, is all about environment. What's in your environment? You know, if you have a lot of carpeting, if you have a lot of dust in your house, and then you go outside and there's grass in the air, you know, or there's pollen or whatever it is, it's the season of grass or whatever your seasons are that cause your allergies, or whatever is, you know, I know Nashville has a particular, and I also remember one in Tucson, Arizona. No, in Sedona, Arizona. There's a particular plant that I was allergic to. I don't have allergies generally. In that case, I would go and find the tincture, work with an herbalist to get the tincture of that plant. And what you do is you take it under your tongue, you take herbal tinctures under your tongue, and you build up your immunity. And then when you're in that environment, you're not going to feel it. But it has a lot to do with keeping your home clean, and throw rugs are better than carpeting, because you know all that stuff, everything collects in the carpeting, and then you're breathing that in. Plus, carpeting has all of these chemicals, from protection against burning and whatever they call it, like the substances and chemicals that are put on furniture as well. It's just crazy. Um, Yes, yes, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for spending this time. I know we went over today. Thanks so much for spending this time with me. And I will see you next Wednesday. I go live every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern. And you can head over to YouTube for lots of playlists and lots of mini voice lessons, also on Instagram. And have an amazing week and tend to your vocal practice. That's where you build the core of your voice and you get everything that you're really looking for. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.